Hello, this is Jennifer. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear
Jennifer.
me? This is Jennifer Loman.
Hey, Jennifer.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
If you will, go ahead and put your name and organization in chat box. We use that to keep up with attendance. Thanks. In just a second, I'm gonna make sure everybody can see my screen when I share it. Trying to make sure I have everything. Hello, Lydia. Hey, Devlin. If you will, please put your name and organization in the chat box for attendance. Thanks. We'll get started in about 8 minutes. Do you see my screen? Can y'all see my PowerPoint?
Hey, Pat.
Hey,
I don't know if you can see my name or not, but this is Lisa Dion from New Horizons.
I see Lisa's iPhone. Lisa, we'll go ahead and type your name in the chat box. Can somebody tell me if they can see my PowerPoint, please?
I can see it.
Okay, thanks. If you will mute yourself, please, that would be great, guys. If you'll put your name and organization in the chat box, please. Thanks. We'll get started in just over 5 minutes.
Um,
If you haven't already, please put your name and organization in the chat box, please. Thanks. And I have already hit record because I am notorious for not clicking it at the beginning of the meeting. Got just over 2 minutes and we'll get started, guys. We got a jam-packed agenda today, so we'll get started right at 3. Don't want to sound like a broken record, but if you haven't put your name and organization in the chat box, please do so. All right, we got 1 minute. We'll get started. Hey, Miss Lydia. Welcome, Charlotte. Hey there, Miss Antoinese.
Hello, thank you.
All right, it's right at 3 o'clock, guys, and so we've got a jam-packed agenda. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the July. Oops, I have to hit share. Dadgummit. Hey, Miss Susan. Here we go. All right. You don't see a screen with fireworks. Somebody let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna act like we're all here together. Welcome to the July meeting. So we've got lots and lots of things, lots of interesting stuff to discuss. So I'm going to get right on it. Really quickly, just want to welcome Charlotte to our little gathering here today. Charlotte Burton is a MSW student over at Troy University who we chit-chatted with a couple weeks ago talking about just in general homeless service providers and the situation here in Columbus. And she sat in with some interviews and Tarika and Sharonica in our office were gracious enough to host her this morning. So welcome, Charlotte, and hopefully you'll get some insight as to what we do and you know, get some interesting you can discuss maybe with your classmates or spark some ideas. So we're going to go over some referral reports from June. We're going to talk about referral outcomes and how you can use the system to note where you are in the referral and enrollment process, so as to not get bugged by Kathy and Tammy from coordinated entry wanting an update, but also so that you can have a streamlined approach to responding to those things. And they actually trigger referrals back to or emails back to coordinated entry. So we don't have the back and forth. It's a one and done kind of thing. We're also going to talk about an interesting funding opportunity we have. I say we have, meaning HUD released about a week and a half ago that actually was on the 22nd of June. They announced it. They announced it on the 22nd of June, but didn't have workshops until the 29th of June to announce the several millions of dollars that are available to focus on unsheltered and rural homelessness. We'll talk a little bit about that, what it looks like for our community, and how we're going to attempt to proceed on trying to secure some of those funds. We'll get some agency updates and announcements. We'll talk about some COVID updates and then some additional resources. So for the month of June, 6% were of our referrals to emergency housing voucher. I'm not going to sit here and read each one of these to you, but if you'll look with me at the bottom there, 37% of the referrals say here, referral to scheduled coordinated entry needs assessment. When I was talking about triggering something back to coordinated entry, this is how we started this process. In looking at how we could have if you're not speaking, please mute yourself, how we could have a streamlined approach and an attempt to not have anybody fall through the cracks. So if a client does an online intake or does a 211 intake, and then it comes to our HMI, our coordinated entry group, Tammy and Kathy can't get in touch with the client. They've called, they've left a message, they've sent an email or whatever. Rather than having to say, oh, I need to go back to the list and see who's blank or whatever, they literally do a referral back to themselves so that the next day they're calling them again. And they do that until they've exhausted the contacts, get in touch with the client and do the needs assessment and make the referral. So those kinds of things. So if you are getting your email blown up by, oh, you got this referral, just imagine right, almost 38% of those who came in last month, and that's about average. It's usually between 33 and 40% of those who come in who've done a online or a 211 intake end up not being able to get in touch with them on the first or second try. Now, by the third try within a 10-day period, those folks will be will be exited from the system, and then or exited from the program. And if they call back, then we can reactivate, of course, or do another intake. So just wanted to touch on that before we went any further. And oops, let me move this. Okay, this is in the wrong spot, so I can't see the numbers. So these were the numbers that those percentages broke down to. Like I said, 81 of the 214 had to be referred back to coordinated entry. And your emergency housing vouchers, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing continues to get the most of any housing program referrals. And then there's the breakdown, and we're not going to sit here and read each one of those again. We'll send these slides out to you as soon as the meeting is over. The recording will be posted on our website, and we can send that out probably within 24 hours. It usually takes about an hour and a half for the recordings to come out. So we'll not sit here and go over and read each one of these slides, but Family Matters, permanent supportive housing got one, and here's the breakdown for the rapid rehousing programs in the community, and then the numbers that each one of them got. That being said, just literally right before we started here today, we went ahead and ran the referral reports broken out by organizations, or I'm sorry, we sorted them by your organizations. We've redacted the client name, so we're not transmitting personal information over email. But as soon as we finish today, when we send out the slides, we'll also send you out your referral reports from last month. On it, you'll see some things about the referral results, which we will go over. I was just talking about how we can make sure we close that loop. It'll give you an opportunity to practice on that, and go ahead and note the acknowledgement, receipt, or a result of each of your referrals from last month. So as we move along, homelessness prevention continues to be strong. We have several prevention programs that require referral through coordinated entry. And if the writing on the wall is any indication, here probably within the next couple years, if you get ESG, and she has a minimum amount of prevention, HUD and the special NOFA that's coming out alludes to prevention for certain communities. That being said, it looks like prevention will be one of those things that get caught up in coordinated entry going forward. If ESGCV is any indication, we will be having to do prevention through coordinated entry in the coming years. So we're just getting ahead of the game on some of them, and some of them it is required. And again, this is just how it's broken out. And again, these are the ones from coordinated entry, the 81 that were sent back to coordinated entry, because first, second call could not get that person. Actually, this would have been first call. First call would not have, they were not able to get that client on the phone. So talking about referrals in court, any questions about the referral reports for the month before we go further? Okay, Denise, I'm sure you're. Sorry, go ahead.
This is Keisha. I'm kind of new to this.
Hi, Keisha.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, so I had a community person, not work related, tell me that there was a homeless family in a particular parking lot that they had seen for several days.
Mhm.
I instructed them to contact 211.
Mhm.
If that particular family didn't have a phone, how would you get in contact with them? And would that be referred to PATH to go as a on the boots outreach, or what happens in a scenario like that?
Okay, so what normally happens, 211, if there's a if there's a 211 intake done by an operator or they do the online intake, it's a where can you be found? Very many times, either our outreach team will do, we'll go out to see if we can find those folks. I say our outreach team, it's a team of one, it's Eric. It's one of the reasons that we're trying to, in the special NOFA, ask for additional outreach, because having a response where someone can respond immediately is critical to meeting needs of these families. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
You did.
we connect with folks who can go out and see and ask questions and have you seen this or have you seen that person?
Okay, I think I joined when you were in the middle of talking about trying 1, 2, and 3 times to reach them by phone, and that's where I got
Sure.
concerned.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And
thank
we
you.
will, yeah. And if there's not a contact, is how can we reach you? Is there a message number? Normally one of our providers, if someone is doing the referral with that person, call me, I'll get in touch with them. Or hey, while we're doing this, and this is one of the things that's unique about the way we run the system here versus somewhere else. If you know the person doesn't have a phone or it's going to be difficult to get in touch with, as soon as that intake is done, we normally make contact with each other, meaning someone will call Kathy or Tammy and say, hey, this person, I don't know if we're going to be able to find them tomorrow when you're trying to do your assessment. So can we go ahead and talk to them now, or can we schedule something? And that way we try and close that loop for the client.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, Pat, it's Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer.
I apologize. I was inside of an appointment. I was trying to listen to you guys.
Did you have a question about the referrals, Jennifer?
Hold on, something popped up that said you wanted me to speak.
No, I must have clicked a button.
Okay, because I was like, oh, I'm here.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. All right, I'm listening.
All right, thanks.
All right.
So, of course, we all know that our referrals all go through HMIS. That's the easiest, best way, and the best way for us to track them. When the referral is sent through HMIS, you get an email. The person in your organization who gets the referrals gets an email, which brings up the point. If you're the person in your organization or you supervise the person in your organization who gets the emails for coordinated entry, and that person changes, somebody needs to let somebody know, because it's going to be going to a person who's no longer there or has moved to a different position or something else. So just an FYI on that one. But you get a referral email saying you've gotten a referral on a client with a client number, and tells you how to view it, going to the provider workspace and those kinds of things. We're going to go through this together to see how the process works. Again, you have to, the same thing is when coordinated entry gets the referral from the online intake or from 211. They have 24 business hours, 1 business day to make a attempt to contact. When we send the referral over to the programs, there's 3 days that you need to attempt to contact that client, making sure that we don't let these things linger on, because the longer we do that, usually the situation gets worse. Remembering too, referrals are based on the information given by the person who did the intake, again, be it 211 operator or online intake, at the time they did it. So if the person said they were a female-led household, that will be one of the determining factors of where the referral goes, because it's based on family composition and where their current living situation. If they were literally homeless, that their list would be smaller than if they were just at risk of homelessness, because there's some more resources there. So again, the referrals are based on what the client says during the online intake to 211 operator and the housing needs assessment, or it's been known as the VI-SPDAT, which we all know is going on, but that's another story. The 211 and the coordinated entry the 211 operators, the coordinated entry administrators do not get into details about someone's income, and all of those other factors that may come into eligibility for your organization. We have certain things, if the person has to be chronically homeless, for instance, for one of your permanent supportive housings, that's taken into consideration. That, of course, that has to do with family composition. Does somebody in that family meet that definition of chronically homeless, and with a disability and the length of time? So don't, that vetting of that client needs to be done on your end. Also, bearing in mind that that client's situation during their experience of homelessness is very likely to change. The person may have come in the system and they were working at ABC, whatever, and making, 24 or $25,000 a year, which would put them over your income limit. But because of them not having housing and they're having to make other arrangements, they're not getting to work at the same time as they were before. The boss is working with them, so they're actually only going to make $18,000. I say all this to say, if the client comes in and says, yeah, this is what I've been making or whatever, well, I'm sorry, you don't qualify. Get verification, do some due diligence, do some digging. What I'm saying is making sure that we're not just dismissing it based on what someone says. I would much rather have a person to be enrolled and say that the client's needs could not be met by the program than to not enroll somebody whose situation is in flux and they don't even know what's going to be happening tomorrow, but this is what their history is of what they were making. Their most recent, pay stub says this, but next week is going to be something else. Also knowing that enrollment begins when you start working with that client. The enrollment is not after you have all the documentation. You start that, you do that enrollment at the beginning and start working with the client. Okay, enough of my speech about coordinated entry and enrollments. So once you've gotten the referral, you go into Client Track, drop down your carousel, and go over to your provider workspace. Click on your provider workspace, which Charles has so nicely put a circle in here for us. Once you hit that, you click at the top here that says Find Provider, then click Search. Find the provider for your, meaning the provider, not your organization, but the particular program, because programs get direct referrals. They have to be set up as a provider in the system. That way they talk to each other. So click the particular program that the client was referred to, or the one that you're responsible for. Usually it's only one per person in an organization. Yours may be different, but usually it is. Click referrals to that selected provider. And then it's going to pop up here at the bottom are all the referrals that you have received or have been sent to you are going to pop up here. You can go in through all this other search. It makes it so much harder. If you just go and go, hey, 419340 was the one I got the referral for, click the checkbox, boom, that opens that client's referral. And it says, this is where you're going to acknowledge it. So, hey, you got the referral, boom. Opens up the client. You're going to acknowledge it by saying today's date. And then if you've attempted to contact the client, got the client or whatever, all of those are going to drop down for you on the referral status. So you left the message. Again, we have 1, 2, 3, because after third, you're off the hook, remember? Unable to leave message. Again, this is all so that when someone else comes and says, well, Pat says that no one called her back and this, that, and the other, someone could go on the thing and go, well, ma'am, they called you this date and this date. They left a message on this date and this date they were unable to leave a message. Oh, yeah, my phone was off. Okay. But this is to back you up. This is to cover your anatomy, as they say. So select whichever type of contact is appropriate, select finish. You can set the appointment right here so that if, again, the client calls back and says, when am I supposed to come in again? When am I supposed to come in again? Or, you know, your coworker has to fill in for you and someone calls, you can, and they'll know it's right here. It will show you when that appointment is for that client. Again, reminding the client to try and bring the documentation that they have, because you will be enrolling them and starting to scan it, but you don't hold off on the enrollment until you have all of the documents. Click finish, because if that's the case, how are you tracking the notes and that you've asked the client for this and you've asked the client for that if you don't have them in your system? Okay, and then here we're closing the referral. Doesn't mean that the client has moved in or whatever, but it's saying, hey, we're providing the service, we're moving along. I couldn't do anything but give them some information because they don't qualify, and that's mainly in services only. We have a couple of services that we refer to that say they just give information there. I wasn't able to get in touch with Pat, or you know, she no-showed for appointment 3 times or whatever, it was rejected. Those, you click those to go ahead and be able to close out that referral, or I should say close out referral, be able to notify coordinated entry. So guess what? They're not sending you the email going, hey, you still have these open referrals. You still have an open referral. This is closing the referral. It's not closing the coordinated entry. It's closing the referral. It's just closing that loop. Let them know everybody's engaged in the process. Got it. We're moving right along. And that's how we create a referral result, and how we acknowledge the referrals. Any questions? I covered a lot really, really quickly, but I thought it was necessary to go over. Again, we're sending the slides out for everybody with your referrals from last month so you can practice. Again, it will close the loop going forward. It will make things much more efficient, and it will give you an opportunity to also look at some things from your perspective on, hey, how long has it taken us to do these, to get these contacts done? Hey, we've gotten better, results than we did the month before. This month we were a little off. Why were we off? It gives you some opportunity to really do a deeper dive into your program. Any questions on the referrals and how to acknowledge them and to acknowledge them and put in the results? This many people, there's got to be a question, but I'm gonna keep going. So we got a lot of stuff today. Uh-oh.
Pat, I do want to say, this is Sarah.
Hey,
I do
Sarah.
want to say thank you for inviting me to listen in and participate with this, because this answers a lot of questions for me.
Awesome.
And I just want to thank you for that, and want to make sure that at least one of our outreach coordinators also will be on the calls in the future.
Awesome. Awesome. And in fact, we'll let you talk a little bit about the IRT that's coming up as we go into announcements, if that's okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Miss Sarah. Oh gosh, I forgot to hit share. Hold on. I'm just looking at my screen about to chit chat again. Oh. Come on, share. There we go. All right. All righty. I mentioned earlier that there's a special NOFA, or they're calling it a supplemental NOFA or NOFO. For those of you who are not familiar with that language, it's Notice of Funding Opportunity. You know, HUD, they've got to have long names, and we put everything into an acronym. And like $322 million was made available, or announced made available June the 22nd. We had the first workshop on June the 29th to talk about what that means, to talk about how programs can work together in a community to apply for these. It's very similar to how we do our regular federal application of funding for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's just a supplemental. This funding, though, is a 3-year funding, where the others are normally 1-year renewables. This is a 3-year funding, likely renewable. No guarantees, but likely from what all of the webinars have said. And if you got our newsletter last week, you did get a copy of the last webinar. And if you need copies of that, please let me know. But as I said, we will be, the Continuum of Care Board is discussing on Thursday the official process to move forward, but will very much look like our processes in the past with our federal funding applications. Our community has been allotted $1.746 million for, again, a 3-year funding cycle. That zero that's next to there, that's the rural set aside. Our community did not qualify for a rural set aside based on our geographics, but I wanted to include it there in case someone said, well, what about the other part? So I wanted to include that. That was cut directly from the announcement that came out from HUD. The applications are due October the 20th of this year. Again, going through and reading the notice, which there's a link in the resources for today, so everyone will have access to it. It's very, very similar, reviewing and ranking and all those other things that we normally we have in our normal application. Very, very, very similar. But again, this is focused on unsheltered homeless. Doesn't have to be exclusively unsheltered homeless that are housed or that are assisted through this, but it has to be the focus. So it needs to be at least 51% of those that you're focusing on. Not that you have housed, but that you're focusing on. So again, very strong in doing the outreach. Keisha, very, very, very much what you were just talking about. What do we do as an organization or as a community when we know that someone is along the Riverwalk or down in the woods or whatever? What do we do? How do we respond? Do we have a designated team? Well, right now we have PATH if the person has mental health and or substance abuse issues. And right now we have one person on outreach thanks to our ESGCV, but of course we all know that's going away. So how are we going to respond ongoing? This is part of those answers. Because outreach is an allowable expense or eligible activity under this grant, under the supportive services only category. The permanent housing, very much traditional permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing, transitional housing. The component of transitional to rapid rehousing is allowable in this program as well. For those of you who've been around a little bit, you know, we a couple years ago that was announced where you bring someone in an intensive transitional program. Normally it's substance abuse or mental health stabilization, and then you transition them into a rapid rehousing with case management, with the goal of after a couple of years of them being able to transition out and using the moving on strategy from HUD. Supportive services only, as I spoke of. Outreach was one that has been brought up a lot in discussions about this funding availability. Also increasing capacity of coordinated entry. Again, one of the reasons it was very important for us to talk about how do we close the loop on those referrals? Are we looking at that on an ongoing basis? And we are at a system level, but are we looking at them and are we sitting down one-on-one at program levels to see if those are, you know, what are percentage of referrals that are accepted and those kinds of things. And again, we can enhance our systems to help us meet those goals. But also, how do we combine that with the need to do outreach to make sure we make those connections with coordinated entry? how do we have a roving coordinated entry team so that someone's not going from here to here to here, but we're closing that loop immediately. We've pieced it together here. We need someone to fund it going forward so that all of the things that the client needs happens in one interaction. And we can make that soft handoff, or that warm handoff, I should say, to the housing providers and other service providers to meet the needs. Expanding HMIS, whether that be new licenses for new users, which the license fees go up and up and up every year. And as many of you know, for as long as we've used HMIS in this community, projects have not paid for individual licenses, something that the Continuum of Care has sought and gotten funding for. It's getting harder and harder to do that. So we're looking for opportunities to be able to pay for those HMIS licenses, for upgrades. There are so many things that we're having to do, and I think we will continue to do going forward in a virtual manner. We'll all need to have not only the software, but the hardware in which to do that. So like I said, there's planning and prioritization going on by the COC board. They will make final recommendations on Thursday as to whether we proceed in seeking this funding, because it's not something you have to do. It's not money that's already here, but we, no one wants to look at gift horse in the mouth. And then we'll be looking at the city's consolidated plan and using that, because they just went through a 5-year study and had great community participation and had resources that it took them months and months and months to pull together. We've got a couple of weeks to put some priorities in line. So using what's already been done in our community and taking those and seeing how we can respond to those as a community. So we'll be asking folks to volunteer to serve on that committee for the planning. And some of those folks will also be asked, obviously, as long as they're not applying for funding, to serve as the review and rank committee for that application, because each project will have to be ranked according to how they present to meet the needs of the community and those who are listed as priorities and those we're trying to dedicate these services and products for. In the next probably 2 to 3 days, a outline of the timeline will come out. All applications will be required to the COC, and this is HUD's requirements, not the COC requirements, no later than 30 days before the application due date, because the applications come in, they're ranked, projects are notified, they're either accepted or rejected, and what rank they're in based on how they scored on the scoring sheet. We will roll all of this out to everyone. And then all of those are put together, and the whole community application is put together. Again, very similar to how we do our federal application. And unfortunately, for those of us who are working on this, we will probably be working on both of these applications at the same time. Our normal federal renewal funding applications, we expect to start to fall or to be announced beginning or mid-August for a submission in November. So we will be working on these applications simultaneously. So yes, I will have thicker glasses and lots more gray hair in the next couple of months. Again, we will announce on hopefully after Thursday's board meeting that we are seeking the funding based on applications from our community. That we know that if the board says yes, we know that we're going to go after some supportive services for outreach money. We know we're going to go after HMIS. The housing programs we look to our providers in the community to let's be creative and innovative. And if we wanted to try something new, this is the time to do it. The timeline for submissions will be sent out along with the announcement of when we will host a community meeting to reveal to everyone what the priorities are, to go over the score sheet and go over everything. Again, the timeline will go up early next week, and the announcement of when that session, that what we call our bidders conference or our public announcement. Looking at, I believe it was the 8th of August, and I'm sorry, I'm looking on my phone so I don't lose you guys on here. Yeah, I'm sorry. We were looking at possibly the 9th of August for that meeting. That would give everyone a good month and a half to go ahead and do the application for funding for particular projects. I'm going to stop there for a second, take a sip of something, and if you have any questions, holler. We just talked about a lot. There's got to be something. But anyway, we'll keep moving because we got a lot still going on here. My computer. There we go. Uh-oh. Okay. Any agency updates, announcements? Miss Sarah, I'm gonna let you talk in just a minute about IRT, but anybody have any updates from their agencies or organizations? Miss Connie, I see you here from Georgia Power. How is everything at Georgia Power? Anything interesting going on there? She didn't know I was gonna put her on the spot. If you're talking, Miss Connie, we can't hear you.
Hey,
Hey.
thank you, thank you. Now everything's good over here. That was really a lot of information you shared. Very interesting though to see, that come into fruition. So I'm all ears and eyes.
Well, we might ask you for some information as we're getting things and information put together for our community, looking at those who struggle to pay utility bills and those kinds of things, because all of those things will have to be worked into some budgeting and some needs analysis. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Oh, I just did that again. Any other agency updates? Anyone have any new staff members? Any staff members who've left and your organizations? And we need to make sure that everyone knows that if they've sent that person an email that they're no longer there. Any updates? Anybody got any big announcements of anything coming up before we let Miss Sarah talk about the IRT?
Pat, I don't have, this is Lisa from New Horizons.
Hey.
I don't have any new staff, but I did want to say that we are experiencing a big staff shortage in case management right now.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if anybody else is having that issue, but I'd like to put, can we put it on pause, the referrals,
Sure.
like for a short
Absolutely.
amount of time?
You'll need to send an email, or actually better yet, put a ticket in Client Track, and to say that you need to put referrals on hold, because the referrals go through the system. And then guess what? If you tell me, I'm gonna forget it.
Okay.
But if the ticket goes in, Charles then disables the referrals, so they can't happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let technology be your friend. I won't remember anything.
Hopefully we start getting some staff. New Horizon contract out with HCS staffing, healthcare staffing, and we've just recently switched over to everyone being New Horizon staff now. So we can do our own recruiting and all of that. So hopefully we see a change soon.
Well, Lisa, this is the perfect opportunity. If you want to send out information, we have no problem. And this is for anybody here. If you're looking for something, or someone who's hiring, whether it be amongst ourselves and especially our clients, we're always looking for opportunities. Some of our clients may even be able to be certified peer counselors or peer specialists. So if you guys have, Lisa, you or anybody else want to send us some information, we'll be glad to send it out to everybody.
Thank you, Pat. I'll be sure to do that.
Sure.
Pat?
Yes.
Hey, this is Susan. I
Hey,
just
Susan.
wanted to say, thank you to our partners at Safe House Ministry for a smooth transition of the permanent supportive housing in Muskogee County. And we look forward to them operating the program and with whatever support that we can provide. But we were really pleased with Safe House stepping up to the plate.
So thank you for bringing that up, Susan. So for those of you who've been around for as long as I have or longer, the permanent supportive housing, which we've all always called Shelter Plus Care, has been operated in locally by New Horizons for many years. And it's actually a contract that New Horizons had with the Department of Community Affairs. And so the Department of Community Affairs is the funded agency for providing permanent supportive housing for those with mental illness in our community. New Horizons sought not to renew that relationship. They're trying to focus on other aspects of their business. And so with part of the continuum of care, we asked providers if they were interested. Like Susan said, Safe House Ministry stepped up, and they will be operating the permanent supportive housing or Shelter Plus Care housing portion. If I remember correctly, Susan, the mental health portion is still going to be done by New Horizons or whomever the mental health provider is, but the housing portion, the actual brick and mortar, lights, water, gas, home visits kind of thing are going to be operated by Safe House Ministries. So
Right, and New Horizons will continue to provide the mental health, substance use disorder case management services.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for letting everyone know, Susan. All right. Anything else? Go ahead.
I think in the chat box, we have a question from Drew. I think he's asking about the version of Client Track. Is the most updated one being offered?
There's
being
actually
used?
there's actually an update that's going to be happening. If you remember, we announced that a couple months ago, that we were going to be converting to 20 real soon. We opted to step back and allow the communities who were still operating Client Track 13, 14, and 15, which were no longer to be supported after July 1st. We opted to let them go first in the transition, because our organization is only on one version down from the latest and greatest. We wanted to let our organization, I'm sorry, our community, we want to let the communities who needed it worst and were most vulnerable at having some data issues, let them go first. So yes, there is a plan. If anyone here needs an update on or needs me to send them the link to the testing database so that they can log in, you use the same login that you use for a regular Client Track and play around in the latest and greatest version of Client Track. Lots of cosmetic changes. So it will, and it's much more interactive. It's more of a web base versus a DOS base. And so it's much easier to use also on your phone. So yes, thank you for that, Drew. We are not using the most update, but that's why it will be rolled out within the next 60 days.
Pat, can I step in there?
Yeah.
Okay. As of yesterday, we've got an email from Ecovia, who is the software designer and provider. We do have a 2-month transition period. That's going from August 1st to October 3rd. So roughly between October 3rd and October 15th, we will be on the new version.
Yep. So I misspoke, but not intentionally. We are transitioning within this next 60 days, but it is a process. Yes. I remember looking at that timeline yesterday. Thanks, Charles. I'm going to learn just to say, ask Charles.
No, you're not either.
All right. Any other questions? Anything in the chat there, Miss Denise?
No, ma'am, that's all.
All right, cool. All right, Miss Sarah, you want to talk to us about this this partnership this collaboration that you guys put together come in August?
Certainly, I will do that. Well, starting, we're the Community Valley Healthcare System is the community partner. Something's going on with my computer here. It just went crazy. We are partnering with the Department of Defense and for their military training. This is a military training opportunity, and it's exclusive to the United States and its territories. So training has been completed recently in Hawaii and in Alaska. And for this end of year, Columbus is the last training opportunity for military personnel. And this is particularly a training opportunity of interest and an opportunity for the medical personnel within the armed forces. We've used their civil engineering before in assisting us in Talbot County. But this time, a much larger training opportunity, and we'll be seeing over 200 military personnel coming to Columbus. They'll be training here in Columbus at the Civic Center, in Alabama in Beauregard, and in Stewart County at Lumpkin, in Lumpkin. And this is, and as they're training, the great thing about this is there's no cost medical care to anyone, everyone, citizen, non-citizen, resident, whatever. Just come from 8 until 5 p.m. every day starting August the 3rd. Get my
August the 3rd, the flyer says.
Yeah, the soft start is on the 3rd. The full services begin on the 4th, and they go all the way through the 11th. There's even half a day on the 12th, and as they start to tear down and moving out equipment. But during that time period, medical, dental, vision, optical, dentistry, as I said, veterinarian services. We're partnering with PAWS to provide veterinary services, and they can do their training while they're there at PAWS and at the other locations as well. So this is just a great opportunity. I know that when they had their training in Savannah, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they had over 1,000 individuals go through the training there. So I'm looking to do more than that here in Columbus and helping them out, because as I've talked with them on occasion, on each planning meeting, they're needing, this is a requirement for them. So they're needing this training so that this is, they can be, as they say, deployment ready in case there's an emergency. So your clients, yourselves, families, anyone that needs services, medical, dental, vision, optical, they're actually being able to turn around glasses in a day.
Wow.
So they're bringing their equipment for that. So encourage your clients to take this opportunity, this chance to get no cost care.
Absolutely. And if, Miss Sarah, how can we help you to get the word out to communities who may not be represented here? I'm thinking about maybe some communities who language might be a barrier, or documentation in the past has been a barrier.
Mhm.
How can we help you to get that information out?
Well, the flyers, of course, we can provide to you, or you can copy the this flyer that you have
Mhm.
on the showing here. We are getting it out through the TV. We're going to ask the mayor to help us get this out through their mechanisms as well to
Right.
all the residents.
Can
So
we go ahead and volunteer to have this translated for you?
yes, you can. We have several translators on staff that we're going to be actually there
Mhm.
On site. If you have translators, even both translators and interpreters.
Right.
If you will have someone that wants to volunteer during those days, please have them call me
Okay.
or call my assistant, because she's taking names of volunteers. Kimberly Austin. And her email address is kaustin, AUSTIN,
Uh-huh.
at valleyhealthcolumbus.com.
What I'll do is I'll go ahead when I send out the slides and all of the links, I'll go ahead, if it's okay with you, and include Miss Valerie's email in the resources at the bottom of this presentation.
Okay, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote down, I don't know why. Oh, Valley. I was looking at Valley and said Valley. I apologize. Kimberly. So I'll send Miss Austin's information. I'll connect it in the slides before we send them out.
You raise a great question about our special population, those without homes, and our street bound, getting the word out to them.
Well, one of that's, and you went right where I was thinking. We're out and about in places that our folks frequent and hang out or camp at on a regular basis. We're going to make it a point that we put this in the hands of folks, but also some of our Jamie Lee, I'm thinking about your location there on Airview in South Columbus. That population that lives nearby there could probably benefit from that. Again, and I think if we can get this flyer translated, and I'll get our resident person to do that, that might be very helpful to that population as well.
Great.
Yes, that would be great, Pat. I was just thinking about the same thing.
Excellent.
And if it's okay with you, Miss Sarah, we'll go ahead and send just the flyer out by itself to all of our different partners and encourage them to put it on their social medias and things like that as well.
That would be great.
Okay.
So we're excited about their training here, and some of them are coming from Hawaii and to our area. So it's going to be interesting for them.
Yes. And for those coming from Alaska, it's going to be even more interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Woo.
Sure.
Welcome to August in Georgia.
Exactly. We keep telling them that.
Just get ready, because you're not ready. Awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Sarah. Anything else before we move on?
Not for me.
All right, thank you, ma'am. If I hit the right button here. All right, couple of things, and I'll send these, make sure I got, yeah, there we go. Some updates from the health department on COVID, on testing and those kinds of things, vaccines. Something we got last week that I thought was really interesting was part of our HUD announcements, the disability access line. It's where we can get people access to things from different organizations, or how they can get interpreters and those kinds of things. So we'll put a link there, and a new round of free at-home tests are available as well. So put a link to that as well. A couple of events coming up related to the continuum of care and Home for Good. Just a reminder, vote riders, our folks who help with ID, Social Security cards, and birth certificates will be here in our office on the 21st at 5. Our Continuum of Care annual membership meeting will be live and in person next month, August the 11th, at the new United Way office. That's at 1008 Front Avenue. Many of you have received the save the dates already. The official flyers will probably go out the beginning of next week. We'll go over lots of things. We'll talk about point in time count. We'll talk about our funding availability that's coming out. We'll also talk about what our performances look like as a system. How does that performance compare to other communities across the nation? Where are we looking? What are some of the things that have been brought to the attention of all of us, as far as looking at gaps in the system, looking at services we've not been able to provide, required education for all of us. We'll talk about fair housing. We'll also talk about implicit bias. We'll take a look at our equity and inclusion, and how we stack up when we're enrolling folks in our program. Are we truly taking those who are most vulnerable, or are we not? So looking at those kinds of things, I want to remind everyone, we are asking landlords how we can assist in getting units turned over in a more quick manner. So the rent readiness survey, it's like 5 questions talking about what's the highest priority for landlords, and how can we, as a community, we're looking for volunteer organizations to help us with this. We've successfully done one. We'd like to do more. Ironically, the survey as it stands right now, the highest need of the landlords is not what I would have thought, and I don't know if it's what you guys would have thought. I would have thought painting and cleaning and all. It's landscaping. Landscaping is where they need the most help. And from what I understand, it's because it's what gets forgotten or lost when all those other things need to get done. The City of Columbus rolled out its annual action plan on last Wednesday. It's up for public comment for another 3 weeks. We have a link to the annual action plan on this slide. Again, will be sent out, and all of these links work and are live. And so you can take a look at the annual action plan, remembering that that's part of the consolidated plan that we will base our priorities for our special funding availability for our community on. And the notice for the special funding availability, that link is here as well, and it goes into much detail. So you'll know it's all of the 66 pages of stuff that the rest of us have been reading. And yes, it's great if you can't sleep at night. But really, really, really talks about partnerships, and talks about a lot of the things we've been talking today about how we can work together. And that is it for me. Anybody, anything we need to address? Anybody have any good news? Anybody getting married? Anybody having a new grandbaby? Anybody looking forward to a fun vacation? Ready to get the kids back to school? Anything before we go? We got 1 minute left.
There was something in the chat from Katie. I wanted to see if she got that question answered. Is there some place that interested clients can sign up, or is it a walk-in? Katie, did you get that answered?
I'm not sure. I didn't quite understand how clients who want to participate in that medical day, that medical and do they
Right.
just show up, or is there a place they can
They just
register?
show up. They just show up.
Just show up. Okay. And does the other flyer have all the dates on it?
The
You know,
flyer-
you said it was all week, right? It's for a whole week.
It is for
The
a week.
4th through the 12th is
4
what
days.
was on the flyer that we have. Uh-huh.
Okay, maybe that's different than the one that was up on the screen.
It's from August 3rd until the 12th. I thought it was on that
Yeah.
flyer.
So hold on, let me get back to it.
And it's Saturday and Sunday as well.
August 3rd to the 12th. I'm sorry, I said 4th. 3rd. My granddaughter's birthday is the 4th, so I'm stuck there. I apologize. It's August the 3rd through the 12th.
And again, it includes Saturdays and Sundays.
Thank you. That's helpful.
That's very helpful for some folks who won't be able to get away from work. So that we need to make sure we push that information out there. Thank you, Katie.
I thought she was talking about the showers. That's why I didn't answer.
Okay, and Connie has provided information about registering your organization on their portal. She's put the information in the chat if everyone would like to view that. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Connie. And again, when we send out the recording, the chat will be part of that as well. Rather than doing 2 or 3 emails, we may just wait until in the morning and then we can send everything out at the same time. I will go ahead and send out the referral list this afternoon though. Miss Connie, I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you brought up the portal. Actually, right before this meeting, Denise and I were talking. One of the struggles we've had is one of our funding sources, our state funder, requires that we put service dates on our request for reimbursements. Those service dates do not show up on the portal.
Yeah, I've shared that information with our technology coordinator that is a need. So we're working on that. I'll see what I can do to try to accelerate that.
Okay.
Especially with, this other funding that you may need, and I mean, that you all may be about to receive.
Right.
And we really want to be a good partner for that.
So Pat, this is Katie. So there is actually a trick to getting that off the portal. Like there's a way you can calculate it based on the meter read date. And I can't tell you how to do that, but my person who does utilities knows how to do that.
Yeah.
And I'd be glad to put you together to help.
That would
if
be
you-
wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. You can kind of figure it out, but I think what you're asking for, Pat, you actually want to see it there when you print it out, right?
Right, because
Yeah.
because when we have to provide backup to the state, we have to be able to prove the dates of service.
Okay. I'll
But
see how
thank you,
quickly.
Katie. I would be interested in seeing that.
Yes, and I'd be interested to see if you can get it on the portal because we kind of asked for that a couple years ago or 2 years ago, and I thought that they could not do it for some reason, but that'd be great if you could.
Yeah, we've had a lot of partners to start asking for that now. So that's something that we've moved up in triage as one of our priorities.
Oh, awesome.
And
That's great.
I think with everything that we've all been through the last couple of years, I think if nothing else, making sure that we can assure our funders that none of us are double paying for the same periods of time and those kinds of things are critical.
For sure. Right.
Thank you. Anything else before we wrap this up, folks?
Pat, last thing, where did you say we could find the annual action plan for Columbus?
It's going, the slides that I send you,
Okay.
the link is in there on the resources page. Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, thank y'all so much for joining us today. For those of you who are housing providers, know that we will be forwarding you your housing referrals from June here very shortly. And while the recording is downloading and everything this evening, we'll go ahead and wait and we'll send the links and the slides and the recording out tomorrow. So everyone have a good evening. Stay cool, and hopefully we all
Bye.
get a little bit of rain tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. Y'all
Thanks,
take care.
guys.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.